Okay, welcome to another episode of Dragon Stories. Today we're with Asherah. I met Asherah in Pisac, Peru. We were doing ayahuasca ceremonies together. She's the mother of three. Now she's the mother, back then she was the mother of three, and now she's the mother of four. And I always found her and her husband amazing because they would always wear white. Everybody knew them because they all traveled together, the family of five that wore white, like really, really light colored clothing. And her kids were even with us even before ayahuasca ceremony. They were roaming around in the ceremony room, and then they went with their babysitter. Um, and I think most of us found their family to be very magical and very free. And then they later left for the States and then India, and now they're back in California. And today I wanted to interview her because Asherah has been, I don't know how to say it, homeschooling or self-educating her children herself. And she kind of sort of follows the Sudbury model, the democratic schooling system. But I think she just created her own way of educating her children. And I'll let you take it off from there about why you chose to educate your children yourself instead of using the school system.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you. That's a beautiful introduction. Yes, we met Kat last year when we went to Peru for ayahuasca, and the kids were a little bit younger then. Now we are settled in California, and when most people ask what the kids do for school, I usually just say they don't go to school, because if they want to know further, like how much time do you have? It's so much. There's so much to share. And when they ask what grade Zuri is in, she's 8 years old, and she would say, at a normal school, I would be grade 3, but I'm not in school. So that usually, throws people off a little bit. I prefer the word education as opposed to schooling. I feel like education is an integration process, a way of life. Education is integrated in every other aspect of our lives, as opposed to schooling is, especially conventional schooling means, you learn something for a prospect of making money, getting a job, or being validated through the grading system. And that's not what we're interested in. I really, first of all, I find the notion of somebody else telling my children how they are doing absolutely ridiculous. They're doing amazing. They're always doing amazing, and they don't need somebody to grade them and to put remarks on a piece of paper to tell them, oh, Zuri is she's excellent in this and she's not passing this, and she's learning in the equivalent of a 10-year or whatever. Like that's completely beside the point for me. I think in my own journey of learning what education is for the children and for myself, I learned that education is very much the process of experiencing wholeness. That's the journey. That's a journey of education, that we are taking steps to be whole. And when you put it that way, when you have that understanding, then the conventional school system no longer works, because it does a lot of things to hinder us from experiencing wholeness. There are multiple ways of doing alternative schooling. A lot of people are homeschooling, and there's something called unschooling, and there's something called democratic schooling, or the Sudbury school concept. And what we're doing is similar to unschooling and similar to democratic schooling, a Sudbury concept, with a few exceptions. Like unschooling and Sudbury concept, really to follow that truly, it means that the children are in charge of absolutely everything, including entertainment, school time, screen time, and food and everything else. And that's not the case with our families. They are in charge of their learning, but within a few restrictions. We follow a vegan diet, and So most of all of the food that we make is vegan, and also almost no screen time. So those are the only two exceptions. Other than that, we pretty much follow the Sudbury and the unschooling concept, which means that the children are responsible for their own learning 100% of the time.
Mhm. Well, we should go over like how old are your children?
All right, so Zuri is 8 years old, Remy is 4, Maji is 2, and Adi is 4 months old. And so normally Zuri would be in school, but education starts much younger. I mean, Maji is being educated right now, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does their normal day look like? Like, do they have a set time when like school begins, or do they just you just let them do their thing and they choose what they want to learn? Like, what does every day look like for them?
So there is absolutely no school. There is no school time. There is no set time for school, because, like I said, education is an integration process of wholeness into every aspect of our life. So there is no set time for school, but they are being educated every moment of their waking and asleep life. Usually when the first thing that they want to do when they wake up, really, Zuri and Remy, especially Zuri, she reads the second that she wakes up. She finds she grabs a book and she stays in bed and she reads it for a while until she feels like, you know what, she wants to get up, or she feels like she's hungry. Remy usually takes a walk around the house, and she likes to, you know, take care of her physical body first, brushing her hair, making sure it's super pretty, putting on a beautiful dress, whatever. And
Remy is like, how old is she again?
Remy is 4.
4. Okay. So
And
8, 4.
after breakfast, now they get into different things that they want to do. You know, most of the times they want to play. And so they play a lot. They play with each other, they pretend, you know, to get into a game, they tell each other stories, they pretend to be dragons, and they pretend that a witch is coming or whatever it is. And then or they have projects to do, they make up their own projects, they have a lot of art projects. Zuri especially, she's into painting and drawing and sketching. And right now what she's doing right now is she's making her own commonplace book, which is this is something that she taught me herself, which is a little book that you carry around and you write down the facts that you learn that you are fascinated about. So she has a bunch of those facts, like how to tell a female crab from a male crab, and how was Shiva born, things like that. And Remy also would get into her own project even at 4 years old. Maji is the only one who doesn't have his own project, but he would follow his sisters around, and he makes up things to do. A lot of, I would say that every single day, though, each one of them would spend quite a bit of time reading. Even Maji, who is 2 years old, 2.5 years old, he also would just sit down and open a book and read by himself for sometimes even an hour or more.
Yeah, that's interesting, because there was this documentary that I was watching about a family that was homeschooled in Australia. And this group of 5 boys that she was homeschooling, they didn't learn to read until like 14, 13, 10. And then like this educator in Australia was worried that with not traditional schooling system, that you won't learn how to read. But in your case, did your children learn to read on their own, or did you teach them?
So Zuri is 8 years old, and she asked me to teach her to read when she was 5. And it took her only maybe like a month or 2 months to really learn to read, and her reading level is so high now. She reads, she can understand, she can comprehend a very complicated and abstract objects, you know, subjects. So she's amazing in reading. Remy, Remy, we don't teach Remy at all. Remy has never asked. Unlike Zuri, who, was eager to like, mommy, teach me how to read. Remy is not eager to know how to read. She opens a book with or without pictures, right? Like a chapter book with no pictures at all. And she'll open it and she'll look through each page slowly as if she's reading it, like an hour, sometimes even 2 hours. And she makes up her own stories. It's absolutely amazing. But I realized that from asking Zuri here and there, like, hey Zuri, what are you writing? Things like that. Like she does know a few words, which I think it'd be so interesting to watch how Remy, how reading comes to Remy, because she is not like a let's sit down and learn it kind of child. So yeah, we will see about that. And whether or not she reads now or she waits until she's 12 years old to read, it's really, again, none of my concern. I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of her life and the quality of her character. She's brilliant as is. She's absolutely brilliant, whether or not she reads.
Yeah, there was this other story that I was reading, I think on the Sudbury website, where there was where they saw this girl and they felt that she should become a writer, and they're like, maybe we should push her into writing. And then yeah, because they saw that she would spend time socializing, and then they just let her socialize. And then all of a sudden she started to write, and they realized, oh, thank God we let her socialize, because her depth of writing was about human emotion. And if she wouldn't have had that time socializing, she would never have become a deep writer. So it's like her subconscious knew exactly what she had to do and when she had to do it and what she had to learn in order to become the person that she is now. Yeah. And so it's good that you're not judging your children, like, oh, you should be, because you're 6 or because you're 8, you should be able to read by now, because each child is different. Because what if they're meant to be musicians, and they don't really need to read?
Not only do we not teach the kids at all, but we are really, really, really adamant about not giving them suggestions. One reason is because it takes away their autonomy and their responsibility, right? When we tell them, hey, like, I really think you should check this out, even as something as subtle as that, hey Zuri, check this book out. Even something as subtle as that can take away their own process, can take away their own direction, and it's really important. The Sudbury school is, so the word Sudbury was invented by this man, Dr. Greenberg, back in the 1960s and in America. But this concept has been around for a long time, and in other countries, without using that word, this type of education has always existed. And Dr. Greenberg said that when they look for staffing for the school, when they want to hire a teacher, they want to look for somebody who's least eager to teach. They're like the people who come in and who have a lot of experience and who like are really eager to, who think that they have a lot to give. Those usually can't last, because what we're really looking to do here is to get out of the children's way. Don't get in their way. Don't be so eager to teach. You have nothing to teach. Your opinions don't matter, and your direction isn't relevant. Just completely get out of their own way and allow them to do their own thing, no matter how long or how slow or how fast or whatever it is. It's completely up to them. Get out of their own way. And in this aspect, it requires a lot of deschooling. We have to unlearn how we've been educated in the past, and it takes a lot of stillness, and it takes a lot of inner peace to be able to be an educator like that, where you're just sitting and watching, observing.
Right. I think there might be like a lot of fear, like, oh, what if we don't have a strict classroom, the children are going to be lazy, they might play video games all day. Like there was another family they call it radical unschooling, and they would let their kids eat whatever food they want, and they would let them stay up till 3 a.m. and they would let them play video games. And I'm a little bit against that, I guess, because I'm not a big fan of video games or
Yeah.
junk food, and I'm like, well, there should be a balance, I feel, between allowing them to unfold like a lotus flower, like allowing them to be who they want to be, but also with some guidelines. Like, for example, I was raised on an organic diet because I'm in the village, and because I was raised that way, like a village organic diet, I don't have the need to eat junk food.
Yeah.
And so I think
I absolutely agree.
there should be some guidelines, but and let them grow within, but not too strict,
Yeah. I think every unschooling family has gone through this process where it's like they're like, how much screen time is okay, and what kind of food is okay and what kind of food is not okay, how much power do we give the children, and we, our family also has tested multiple different ways. For example, when it comes to food, it's almost never a hard no. We are vegan. But whenever, let's say, when we're in India, for example, there were a lot of food and snacks, especially sweets and desserts, prasad, extremely sweet, that weren't vegan. It had dairy in it, and and the kids always had the power to choose whether or not they want to eat it. And sometimes most of the times they say they don't want it. If it has animal products in it, they don't want it. But sometimes they do say, mommy, I want to try. I want to try. And of course, they get to try and they get to choose that every single time when we go out to eat. Let's say we're invited to some family's dinner. They get to choose what they want to eat. And because of what we eat at home, because of the food that they're used to, meaning very, like I make every single meal that they eat. We eat 90% fruits and vegetables. We almost never, ever have processed food or junk food. And when they want snacks, we make the snacks ourselves, so they don't have that kind of craving. So even when they go out, and even if they are curious about something, they might try a bite or two, but they forget about it. And they don't have that desire. So so yes, that is it with food. And with screen time, it's been like a back and forth process. Sometimes we have something called the community meeting, which we meet once a week, and we vote on the things that we want to talk about, the things that could improve our community, meaning this family of 6 members. And the kids get to vote on what they want to do with the screen time, what they want to watch, blah, blah, blah. I get a vote, of course. My husband gets a vote. Zuri gets a vote. Remy gets a vote, although Remy always says, I'm going to say whatever mommy says. So it really doesn't matter. So it's usually a compromise, a common ground, a common understanding of all of those ideas, where Zuri says that she wants to watch something. Sometimes she wants to watch something that's more exciting, something that has magic and fantasy in it. And I, when we do watch, which is not often, we watch documentaries about education and spiritual awakening, and we watch movies that are like very, very slow, movies in different languages, so there are subtitles. So we find a common ground in that, where we would find a couple of titles, a couple of movies, and we'll watch trailers together as the whole family, and we'll vote on it, and so in that way, it has been really, really wonderful for us, because there's this, the kids know that there's this respect that we give them. So when let's say Zuri says, mommy, I really want to watch this show or that show, I heard about it here and there. And if we say, Zuri, I've thought about it, I really consider it, and I don't think that's going to help you in any way. It's not going to make you happy or better in any way. And I really don't think that I'm comfortable with you watching that. She would be so happy. She would be listening to it happily. She wouldn't have any resentment. She wouldn't be like, no. She trusts us 100% because of the level of respect that we give her. So yes, this model, I think, only works when there's that foundation of mutual trust and respect between all the members of the community. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. If we just force this idea on her and say, hey, no screen time for you, and that's it, and no movies, and that's it, and I don't think that would work at all. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question, because I was like, when I was reading the Sudbury model, and I was like, okay, I want to see what Aurobindo school was like. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about Aurobindo from
Yes.
Pondicherry. And I was reading his model, but not like entirely. And he was, his big thing was teaching the children, in a wholesome way, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so I think yoga was a part of his curriculum, or some sort of physical exercise, and then mental with meditation, and then also, regular schooling. And so I was wondering, do you incorporate that into your children, or do you just let them decide on, like, instead of pushing meditation or yoga onto them, or do you just let them be more, like, give them more freedom?
A lot of times when people think about meditation, they think about, sitting down and cross-legged and closing your eyes, right? But it's, again, it's this whole process is an integration of wholeness into every aspect of life. It's the way of life, really. And no, we don't push anything on the kids. We don't say, hey, like, today we're doing yoga, tomorrow we're doing yoga. I do yoga, my husband does yoga. Whether or not they want to join is absolutely up to them. I meditate and my husband meditates, and if they want to join, they join, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And it's the same with yoga. But the concept of what's behind meditation, what's behind yoga, the idea of observing oneself and bringing our mind and our body into union, that is, we practice that as a way of life, in the way that we eat, in the way that we speak, in the way that we walk, with awareness and with mindfulness. So I'm trying to think of an example for you. For example, like they're eating, right? They're eating something very, very good, and Zoe's eating really fast, for example, right? And I would say sometimes I would say, Zoe, my love, you're eating very fast. Are you aware that you're eating very fast? And she would say, no, I wasn't aware that I was eating very fast. And then you could tell that her breathing slows down, and she's more mindful, and she's, like, being more at home or at one with the food that she's eating. She's chewing more slowly. It's that. It's more that than, hey, now let's, you go sit down over here and meditate. It's also, especially when they're having a negative experience, or when they are going through something that is difficult emotionally, when they're feeling sad or angry, this is the time when this practice comes in really, really helpful, where they, because they know how to follow their breath, which is what they learn from observing us, right? Sometimes I'm cooking, and I realize that because I'm getting hungry and the kids are getting hungry, I'm cooking a little bit faster, I'm walking a little bit faster, and I'm cutting faster. And then I would slow down. I would just put my knife down, and take a breath, and just do it super slowly and mindfully. And this is something that we do every single day, in every single thing that we do, when we're walking, when we're eating, in everything. So she, the kids watch this and they learn this. And so when they are in a similar situation, when they realize, and they do have the awareness that they are, getting too excited, or they are getting too rambunctious, or too loud, or whatever, or too angry or something, they stop to follow their breath. And it's really beautiful. It's absolutely, Aurobindo is right. This is something that is more important than math, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you're right. There's different ways to incorporate meditation, and there's different ways to incorporate movement, because it doesn't have to be yoga. It could be dance, or it can be ballet, or
Yeah.
different things like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a question that I had, and I'm trying to remember it now. I think it had to do with I guess I wanted to say like how I started schooling, and uh, in Ukraine, where I moved from the village. Like in the village, I got to. I was very, I guess not proud, but I'm happy that I grew up the way I did in the village, running around, and I had so much freedom and hanging out with the farmers and climbing trees. I was always very grateful that I got to raise in such a way, and like I feel not every kid gets to have that freedom, running around bare
Yeah.
feet and watching the cows get branded, or
Yeah.
which is not the best thing probably, but or like stealing pears from the neighbor. And then I remember I started going to school in the city and it was Soviet Union time, which was
Oh,
extremely strict.
wow.
And so
Yeah.
in the classroom, I remember we had to sit like this,
Yeah.
to look forward at the teacher, and if you even
Mm.
move, you'd get a
Yeah.
slap on the hand with a ruler. And so, of course, I was really good with algebra already at the end of grade 1, beginning of grade 2. We were already doing algebra. And,
Yeah.
and this, even to this day, with China and Russia and Ukraine, to this day, they have the highest math scores because it's raised in such a strict manner. But then
Yeah.
again, are they happy people? They're not rated to be
Exactly.
the happiest people. I think Denmark is one of the happiest places, and like rated on the happiness index. And I always like wondered why. And then I met my the nephew of the CEO. I met him, like we were working together for a while, a couple years back, and I wondered why he was so mature. And he was only like 23, 20, like he was 10, 15 years younger than me, but he was so mature. And I asked him why, and he's like, well, in Denmark we get to choose how we are educated.
Yeah.
We can stay at home. He got to travel with his parents
Yeah.
because his mother was a doctor, and so he got to be in Africa. He was like only age 10. He was already hanging out with the Buddhist monks in India.
Yeah.
And then he said, we can send in our tests, but we don't have to be in school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And then your children got to travel as well, because you were like traveling in Peru, and then you guys went to India.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be way ahead of other children that got stuck in the classroom,
Mhm.
in fear mode. They didn't really get to explore their creativity. And so it's interesting, because I think the other day is when I heard somebody say that our school model is so outdated, and it's based on the Industrial Revolution so that people can work in factories. And I'm wondering, okay, well, when is it going to change? when when are we going to go back to the traditional ways of
Yeah.
schooling, or like the old ways, like in the tribal days?
Yeah. In the conventional school system, especially here in America, we see something that's called what they're looking for really is obedience, right? Like you have to ask for permission to do anything, even something as simple as going to the bathroom, right? Like your bodily function, you must do it, yet you still have to raise your hand and ask, may I go to the bathroom? That's absolutely ridiculous. And so the children have doubts about themselves because they're not allowed to self-evaluate. They don't get to say who they think they are, how good they think they are. They are told how good or bad they are, and it's not, I don't think that my children are ahead, but I definitely think that my children are very, very confident, and they're a lot more sure of themselves than many of their peers that they had observed, because they get freedom to be. They just be.
Yeah, I think that's what I was when I was reading about the Sudbury model this morning, the fact that there's no grades. And I was like, I've been graded my whole life, like all the way up until 12, I got grades. And of course, I always got A's because, I would be not punished, but I would be looked down upon if I didn't get A's. And then same thing in university, I got A's, and I was always the student in the front row paying attention to the professor, and I would get upset at the other students. But then, like, here I am at 40, and I feel I still do not know who I'm supposed to be, like what my purpose is in life. And so, like, that's what I was writing about this morning. I was like, I wonder what kind of person I would be if I actually had this type of education, where
Yes.
I think I would be a completely different person.
I think so too. And the fact that when you go through a school system like that, the need to ask for permission stays in us for so long, as adults, as grown-ups, and we still ask ourselves and ask others, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? Is it okay if I do this? And then a lot of times we feel as if if we didn't have that validation and permission, then we are really not confident in choosing that path. Yeah.
Well, it's that, but also the need to be perfect. Like, I feel like I don't try many things, including like this channel. Even though ayahuasca told me, and even my friend was telling me, he's like, you're really good at interviewing, you should start your own channel. And, he told me this over a year ago. It took me a year to actually start it and start doing it because of this fear of making a mistake or not being good enough. And then you compare. And sometimes I feel if I was Zuri, if I was raised like a Zuri, I might have started this channel at age 10. And it's like, who cares if you make a mistake? You don't even think about making a mistake. You just do.
Yeah.
You just do it
So
because you want to do it.
in our house, we usually do not evaluate. We don't give evaluation unless the kids ask us to. And when they do that, means that they want honest opinion. And then we'll say, like, Zuri sketching, let's say, an eye or a nose, which is something that she's learning recently. And I would say, this is a little bit off proportioned. Perspective should be this way. Over here, this is a little bit darker because the light hits that way. And yeah, you could do better next time, something like that. Instead of, oh, you're doing excellent, wow, here's an A. There is nothing like that in our household. However, something that is absolutely required is not perfectionism, but is integrity. If you're going to do something, put your heart into it. Don't do it half-heartedly. That's not acceptable. Something as simple as, let's say, the kids really like to cook with me in the kitchen, and they cut, they can cut. Even Maji, who is 2.5, I allow him to use the knife sometimes with instructions and with observation. Remy is 4, and she's been using the knife for maybe 1.5 years already now. So they cut mushrooms and vegetables and peeling garlic, whatever, in the kitchen. And if they don't do a good job, or if they are not performing as well as they normally do, meaning they leave a mess and they don't clean up after themselves, or if I say, hey, this mushroom has to be cut very thinly, otherwise it won't cook, and they cut it very thickly, that's not acceptable. Not acceptable at all. Try your best. And I know, based on my observations of what they have done, I know it when they're slacking, and slacking is not okay. If you feel like you don't have the energy for it, if you don't feel like your heart is not in it, just don't do it. Simply don't do it. Go do something else, because you know what? You get to choose. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've met a lot of people in this world that don't even know how to cook. And that's because their parents did everything for them.
Yeah.
And that's not that's not a good way either, because like I think I started cooking at a pretty young age.
Yeah, me too. I resonate so much with the things that you said about your childhood learning, because mine was like that too. Vietnam is a communist country, and we went to school like that, exactly the same way. Um, uh, you are very, I feel like you're so progressive and your mind is already so open. So like you don't have that many questions. But usually when I talk to people about this concept, like mm, there's a lot of skepticism, especially from my own family who are in Vietnam and who are very academic. They have a lot of skepticism about this, and they ask a lot of questions. What if the kids never learn, what if they all just want to play all day, and how
Right.
will they find a job and go in the real world, and how do they socialize? Like kids need to be in school and being with friends, things like that. So
I did have that question because
yeah.
the socializing with other kids, because here at least they have each other, they have a brother or sister. Like I was an only child, so
Hmm.
um, I think maybe it helps being in school, because then you're maybe not for the creative development but for the socializing aspect, but then you don't even get to socialize that much because you're constantly paying authoritarian type of schooling.
Yeah.
So you only get like 1 hour during period and then maybe cafeteria. So I'm wondering, like, are they going to be a little bit different because they don't get to socialize with other children, or do you give them opportunities to socialize with other kids
That's
in some
funny.
other way?
This question comes with so many different layers of what the norm that the society has put on us, has forced on us, I would say. First of all, what's the importance of socialization? In this society, people say all the time, oh, it's good to socialize, or it's good for kids to socialize, but um really, really, does anybody ever ask, how do you stay with yourself? Isn't that more important to learn to be with oneself?
Mhm.
Right? We see so many adults here in modern life, in adulthood, who have a normal job and whatever, who get to meet a lot of different people every single day, and who socialize, but they feel very lonely. There is no depth in their relationships, and they feel very, very lonely. And we know people who, a monk or a nun, or just somebody who doesn't live that socialized lifestyle, who don't have a lot of friends or acquaintances or whatever, and they feel very at home with themselves. So
Mhm.
what is more important? Why is there this need to push that on the children? Oh, you must go out and socialize, no. And they make friends exactly the same way that we make friends, organically, right? When we go out and we meet somebody, we, even if it's somebody in passing, somebody who we meet one time at a playground, at a park, at a grocery store, or whatever, if there is a soul connection there, it is significant and the friendship will last, right? What are the odds that you and I met in Peru? It's not by chance. And so children are exactly the same way. They meet people organically like that. Another thing is, when they are in a conventional school system, they get to hang out with the same people of the same age all the time. So their learning, to their ability to socialize is actually very, very limited within that. And a lot of times you can see that by observing their interactions with people who are not in the same age group, and they're completely lost. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to have, they don't know how to hold an in-depth conversation about, let's say, world traveling, or religions, or theology, or whatever that is, to or emotions, right, to somebody of, from another age, from another caliber, and they are absolutely lost. Whereas when children are learning this way, right, they don't have their peers, because everybody is their peer. So they learn to have conversations and to think and to interact with multiple different ages from multiple different backgrounds. And I don't remember what you and Zuri talked about the last time, you saw her, but certainly you could tell that like she wasn't talking about, silly things that other 7-year-olds, talk to each other nowadays, like what kind of Barbie dolls they have. And
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I really liked about the Sudbury model, because it was saying they don't force like 9-year-olds to be with other 9-year-olds. It's a mixed classroom, and
Yeah.
therefore they're able to have role models, and they're able to just basically like help each other out, and you get to interact with different age groups, and so you're not limited, because what if your thinking is different and you get along better with a 12-year-old even though you're a 5-year-old, just because of your consciousness level. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you feel too that like sometimes a lot of people when they go to school, they feel like they're a little bit older than their peers, like they have an older heart than their peers, and so they have a hard time making friends with the people of their own age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even like really remember school. I felt like it wasn't memorable, like none of it. I think it's because it felt like just programming, like downloading.
Mhm.
It's the memories that stand out the most to me in my life is the adventures that I had, like Burning Man or India, or the people that I met along the
Yeah.
way. And it was during my adventures that those memories stick out, not the classroom. And probably because it's just like an upload, it's just a download. So there's nothing memorable about it. So I just kind of, all the years of schooling that I've done, it's like a blank slate. So it's like, what's the point? If you're not going to remember it, what's the point of even doing it?
Yeah. One thing that I really wanted to talk about is the process of learning. Like let's say if kids are interested in something, how would they go about learning that, right? And this is something that's at a normal school system, it's all done for. So the kids don't really have to come up with a way to bring that knowledge to them, or they don't have to try hard at all. You know what, like the critical self-thinking part is completely taken out, it's completely removed in a normal school system, because you're just there to absorb and obey. For example, like if Zuri is interested in learning something, which she is all of the time, she has so many interests, then usually we would help her. She has a library card, so she is allowed to browse through the library to see if she finds anything, or she we'll take her to Barnes and Noble if she has the budget for it. She does have a monthly budget where she can spend on her books and art supplies for educational purposes only. So yeah, she goes there and she picks out a book and she goes home and she tries it out. And if it doesn't work, then she comes up with another book, or if she learns that there's a course somewhere, then she has to be the one to email the course facilitator, or call them up and say, hey, like I'm 8 years old, can I attend this course, which she has done a couple times now. And the people are like, oh wow, I've never emailed an 8-year-old before, and we've never had an interest from an 8-year-old before. So but I think the point is not for her to learn. That's not my purpose. My purpose as a parent and as her friend, and as her guide, is to be with her through that journey, the journey to the internal process that she goes through when she wants to learn something, how she goes about acquiring that, and how she goes about manifesting it from her mind into her reality. That is my concern, and that's what I'm here for. And whether or not she learns those things is really not that important, right? But for me to see that she knows she's manifesting her own life, she's creating her own reality, and she feels responsible, she feels truly that she is the co-creator of her physical reality. It's absolutely amazing to watch. And that is I feel like that's a lot harder to do when you're in a school system where you're constantly being told what to do. So your reality is being created not just by you, but by the teachers at the school, by the government, by the whole system, and by, you know, all of your classmates. And that's hard. That's much more difficult.
Yeah, like
Does
I
that make
feel,
sense?
yeah, I feel like I've been deprogramming myself, you know, this for the last 15 years. Like I started doing the Hare Krishna mantra in 2005, and I felt like I woke up spiritually just from doing that mantra for 1 month. I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I started doing yoga, and I became vegetarian, you know. That's like the power of vibrational sound, why I love mantras so much. And then like, and I feel like the chanting of mantras since then for the last 17 years has been a constant path of de-learning, deprogramming, you know. And I'm constant, and it's like I'm doing Krishna mantra, Shiva mantra, and I'm like being pushed to go to a new country or do something else, and a lot of times I'm uncomfortable because I'm going into the unknown. But I feel like Krishna and Shiva, or it's the mantra vibration that's like pushing me to follow my soul's urging. And then I do it, but you know, it's not easy because I'm going into the unknown. And I feel like every day I'm like deprogramming of what I was programmed.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, so
Yes. I wish really that there was something that like existing out there that fits the model of what I think is the best for the next generation. I think the Sudbury concept is absolutely beautiful, but it lacks the spiritual aspect. It lacks the mindfulness, the meditation, the yoga, the mantra. It lacks all of that, which I think that's extremely important. That's without that mysterious journey of the unknown into oneself, life can't it can't be complete. There's simply no wholeness in that experience. So right now, as far as I know, there is no system like that, and we've been setting the intention to, if the time comes and you know, if the opportunity comes, we would like to create a school like that, or the whole community like that, where all the parents and the children can stay there and live there and live in this way together as well.
right. I think that's kind of like where my mind is at, because I was thinking about that this morning. If I were to create a school, because I do believe in allowing the child full freedom, full expression, but I feel that there should be some sort of container, and a very strong container. And like there should be kirtan and mantras, because
Yes,
mantras
yes, absolutely, yes.
reconnect with your soul and your soul's urging, and it starts unlocking the knowledge in your chakras. Like a lot of the things that I know about energy or energy reading, it
Yes.
all, or even uniting with the consciousness. Like at one point I chanted, I was like on the beach, right? And I was chanting, and I was able to calm my brain down to the point where I felt that I could talk to the dolphins and the whales. Like I was like, oh my God, I think I have an open channel to the dolphins and the whales, because my mind was able to clear so much that that channel opened. And then I said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to Ukraine. I'm going to be gone for 3 months. If you guys are out there, please show yourself. Within 5 minutes, the dolphins jumped up, 5 dolphins. And 15 minutes later, a whale. And a whale never comes this close to the beach. And I thought I was seeing things, because I asked an Indian man who was also walking on the beach. This is in California. And I'm like, did you see that whale? He's like, whales never come here. They never come this close. And then I was walking up the cliff, and I turn back and I see a giant whale come up. And I'm like, okay, I'm not seeing things. And so I feel it's important, you know, to teach these things from a young age. It's like basic meditation,
Yes.
so that they control, like, for example, like Bessel van der Kolk, right? This guy, because he focuses on healing trauma, right? And he teaches, he's been studying trauma so long that he's at a point where he just teaches yoga and meditation to children, and he just tells every school, like, you guys will avoid a lifetime of trauma,
Yeah.
and like depression, if you just teach your children meditation and yoga at a young age, because it teaches them how to regulate their emotions. It teaches them how to focus. It teaches them basically, like, just
Yeah.
how to control this thing and not let it get crazy.
Absolutely, yes. And you can teach this at a very young age. Like Maji is 2 years old. He learned to speak recently. He only says he doesn't say a lot of words, to be honest. He can't say a full sentence, but he's really good with identify his emotions. If he's upset, he'll come, like if you make him upset, he'll come to you and he'll say, cat, Maji, upset. Cat, say sorry to Maji. You know, and when you say, Maji, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry for doing that, and like you say that you can see that he isn't dwelling on that. He bounces back really, really quickly when he gets really angry, and he goes and says, Daddy, Maji, angry. And Daddy will say, buddy, I'm so sorry, I did that because of this and because of that. And he'll say, okay, Daddy, okay. And so seeing that's so important. That's so important, and definitely a part of education, which is why I feel like this type of education doesn't work unless the parents are 100% on board. You can't send the kids to a school like this, for example, but at home the mom and the dad still stay up late at night and drinking wine and watching Netflix, without regarding the kids' feelings, without consulting with their own community, and seemingly living separate lifestyles, with the children and their education. I don't think that would work. I think the parents have to be 100% on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was this other, I don't know who I was watching, but they were saying that most of the time anger is not allowed to be expressed and it's hidden. And so then you raise a generation of or people that do not know how to express their anger, and they're constantly suppressing their emotions, and they don't know how to vocalize it. And then you have, that's what leads to addiction. That's what leads to alcoholism or overeating or drugs, because like if a child gets angry and then the parent, a lot of times the parents like, oh no, you can't get angry, like.
Yeah. Yes. Within a safe container, really, it's like when you're experiencing an ayahuasca journey, right? And you're going all through all kinds of things, and you're seeing this demon and that demon, right? And the shaman acts as the safe container holder, so that you are allowed to go through that process fully. Do not go through it half-heartedly, right? And it's the same way when we create these loving, kind, compassionate foundations for the kids and allow them to express their anger. They go through it so quickly, so much more quickly, so much more easily. Sometimes like when Remy sounds like she's so angry at me, I'm so amazed at how quickly she forgives me afterwards. I'm like, Remy, how do you do that? I can't do that. You forgive so quickly. But that's because they know, like, they express their anger, so it's just like it comes and it goes for them. Like the energy, the flow of the energy, is not obstructed by oppression and opinions.
Yeah, it's one of the things I never learned. I think when I get upset or hurt, I just kind of go into my shell. I like retreat, and I don't vocalize that I was hurt.
Yeah.
I don't even say it. I don't speak it. I just kind of hide into my shell, because that's what I learned when I was a kid. And so I still do it now. And then, what do? I end up drinking wine or end up getting sad because I don't have a healthy way of expressing my anger, or I never learn how to express my anger or even speak about my emotions. So it's like, and then it continues into your adult life, so it's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Besides besides having the freedom to process their own emotion, something that's really important as well in the education system that I see right now, like the main difference between this and what the world is teaching, is boredom at a school. I was talking to a mom recently whose two kids go to school, and I asked her if she liked the school, and she said, "Oh, it's really amazing. They have different things for the kids to do all day long. They never get bored."
Ah.
um, but in a household, we encourage boredom. Boredom
Mm-hmm.
boredom is not only okay, not only allowed, it is encouraged. It's good to experience different range of the emotion and figure out for oneself what they want to do. Like, let's say if my kids come to me and they say that they are bored, I don't give suggestions. I don't say, why, how about this? You can do this and you can do that. No, that's not my job. That's your job. Um, but through doing that, you can see that they deal with it so well. They love through the process of accepting boredom. They accept that part of themselves, that part of the human experience that isn't always present, the pleasant, that isn't always simulated, isn't always exciting, right? And a lot of things, like you said, when you said you don't know what to do, you drink wine because you think that's more exciting. You don't know how to sit in that stillness of boredom. And this is the root of it all, requiring external stimulation, validation, and occurrence to change what's in here. And that's not okay. If you're bored and you find something to do, that is the same as using external stimulation to fix what's in here. And so in our house, we really encourage the kids to be, when they sad, to keep being sad, when they're angry, to keep being angry, when they are disappointed, to keep being disappointed. When they say, "Oh, I'm really bad at this. I'm so disappointed in myself." We don't say, "Oh, you're wrong. You're not bad at this. Don't be sad. You're not bad. You're good." No, we don't say that. We say, "Okay, okay. I hear
Nice.
you. I see that that's how you're feeling."
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to think that you're bad at, you're probably bad at that thing. That's why you were disappointed, you know?
Okay, I need to take a bathroom break.
Okay. Does you pause the record or are you editing it out later?
Yeah, I'll edit it out later.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
okay, so yeah, I wanted to talk about an experience that I had in Ukraine where I went to one of my family's house and they had a TV in every room, and their 6-year-old was playing a video game where he was shooting on his phone. And I almost had a panic attack because I was like, he's only 6 and he's already killing people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they went, and they're a beautiful family, and I like their youngest, became their godmother of their youngest,
Yeah.
but then they went to get sushi, and then like we were eating and they put like this horror film where people were dying and like being shot and there was like blood, and I literally left the room into another room and started crying. And then I think they thought I am crazy. And I'm just like, how can I eat in front of people dying? How can I watch a 6-year-old shooting people? Like, because over the years, the more spiritual I've become, I've like, when I eat. When I watch a movie, I watch a movie. I try not to combine too many things. If I'm talking to a person, I'm talking to a person. I'm not playing on my phone. I'm not checking my messages. Even force people to put their phones upside down. I'm like, how much EMF radiation is coming from this thing? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if you're going to talk to me, then talk to me, spend time with me. Don't play on your phone. So I even tell people, like, put your phone down when you're talking to people, give
Yeah.
them the respect, because this moment may not happen again. And also the amount of radiation coming up, like, to get a break from, the
Yeah.
phone. So I get really upset with parents when they give iPads. Like even 2 days ago, I saw like this 6-year-old on the beach with an iPad. Basically, parents are letting iPads and the TV and YouTube babysit their children. And
Oh gosh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. And
Gabor Mate,
those children are going to have to spend a lot of time and energy healing from that.
yeah, and Gabor Mate talked a lot about this with raising children. He's like, don't give phones or screens to children until after 13. After 13, after 14. He's like, you got to understand, a child is developing their like mental, psychic, and
Absolutely.
motor
Yeah.
skills when they're young, and so they need to be
Psychically, they are so open. They're too open for
and they need to be working with their hands, like doing crafts. Like I was planting potatoes when I was young. I was
absolutely.
running
Yes.
around. I was climbing trees.
Mm,
And kids need to be like moving around, socializing, arts,
I
crafts,
agree.
not like brain, going brain dead in front of a computer. But
Yeah,
anyway,
we've had this experience where we were invited to a person's house for dinner, and after dinner she turned on the TV. She said, "Oh, what do you want to watch? I have Disney Plus." And I said, "No, no, thank you, no watching." Um, and she said, "Oh no, no, it's okay, it's okay, no problem at all. I have Disney Plus, and besides, let's put something on for them so we can talk." And I said, "No, we would like them to be included in every single conversation that we have, unless they choose to go play on their own, but we're not shooing them away so that we can have some privacy. We don't do that." And I explained to her a little bit about like how we don't watch things like that. And I could see that it brought out throughout this conversation that we had there is a small living room, and she's trying to have a conversation with us, and the kids ask questions, like legitimately curious questions. And she had a really hard time answering them, catering to them while having a conversation with us. And I could just tell that she really she had a really hard time. She probably really just wanted them to be watching something and leave her alone. But yeah, it's so bizarre to think that many parents want other people to do the parenting for them, the TV, the iPad, the school, the government, everybody else but themselves. That's just bizarre.
yeah, it's almost like, why even have children at all? If you're not gonna teach them. Well,
Just so you know, we do watch, by the way, we are not anti-technology. We do use technology. I mean, I'm using a computer right now, and Zuri is allowed to use the computer sometimes to look at her online library, to see what's in there. But we do watch, but when we watch, the whole family votes. We find movies that are wholesome, that are that help us in spiritual, emotional ways, intellectual ways, and then we vote on that, the whole. And we don't watch anything unless the whole family votes on it. So
nice.
yeah.
Okay, and then last thing before we wrap up, I think you wanted
Yeah.
to talk about if parents wanted to transition from the matrix school system,
Yeah.
from the school system to more organic way of educating, homeschooling, what you are doing.
Yeah.
How does one transition?
I would say that for somebody who has a 9 to 5 job and who has kids who go to public school or even private school, whatever, normal school, to be completely doing this kind of educating and parenting is extremely difficult. It's painful because what you're doing is essentially deprogramming yourself, de-school yourself, and dismantling your whole system piece by piece, bit by bit, and rebuilding yourself all over again. It's very painful. It can be a very painful journey. So I would suggest start with the awareness and the observation of what you're doing that is a product of programming, that is the product of the system. And observe yourself, go through the process of de-school yourself, deprogram yourself, and just go from there and see where it leads. And yeah, start gentle, gentle, slowly, little by little, even start with like something as simple as a weekly meeting, where in our house, our weekly meeting, we have everybody gets to report what somebody else has done that they think is wrong, and everybody gets to suggest the changes that they would like to be made in the community, and everybody gets a vote essentially on how the community is being run. So right now we have 6 of us, but Maggie, who is 2, and Addie, who is 4 months old, don't really get a vote because, so it's like parents, children is 50-50. But soon they are going to outnumber us, which means that, we essentially are going to have to let them run the whole thing. But it's a really, really beautiful way of showing up for your kids in a loving, compassionate, respectful ways. It's a really beautiful ways to say, hey, I respect you, I hear you, I see you, and I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. And I respect what you have to say. It's as simple as that. And it's in that process, a lot of deprogramming is done already. A lot of healing takes place in that simple meeting. For example, in one of the meetings recently, Zuri said that that she reported Remy for scratching her. And we asked Remy if that's true. Remy said that's true. And then we asked if Zuri wanted to suggest a punishment for Remy, and Zuri said, I want to propose that when somebody does something wrong like this, if they admit their wrongdoing, then they are forgiven. And so Zuri said, and so we asked Remy if she wanted to admit. Remy said, yes, I admit that I did that. And so Zoe said, okay, then you're forgiven. But see how just providing the environment for listening, for confiding, see how much healing takes place just in that process alone, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not just that, it's with everything. Like they propose that their budget be increased, and we listened to that. And they propose to have more nature time, so we agree to that. So see like this whole process of and the days leading up to the meeting, like they go through these things in their mind where they're like, oh, I see that this is not really working with the community. I would like to make a proposal next time we have a meeting. And they talk about this, like they talk about this with each other, where Remy would say, Zoe, I'm going to propose this next time we have a meeting, So they feel responsible and they feel in charge. They feel their authority. And that's so beautiful. It's really, really, really beautiful. And that's something I feel like every family, no matter where you are or what you're doing, you could incorporate that in your way of living. And that I feel like would make really, really radical changes already.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. Now I'm like, I wish I was raised like that. Or if I have a child, that's what I'm gonna do.
Do you have any more questions?
I think that's it for now. And I hope parents get to watch this video, and hopefully the next time we do all 6 of you, all 6 of you.
All 6. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Asherah.
I would like Zuri and Remy to be here to share what they have to say. What now it's very late. It's 10 o'clock at night, and they are probably sleeping or reading in bed, whatever.
Yeah. So next time we'll have Zuri, Remy, and you.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Asherah.
Thank you so much.